I think that honestly, brand and marketing designers ourselves are part of the problem sometimes. I wanted to teach people how to be impactful brand and marketing designers, how to understand the business strategy and the marketing strategy that your work is going towards, so that you can be approaching your work from that more strategic angle and not just thinking about visually how it looks. My working title right now, I don't know if I'll stick with it, is more than making things pretty.
Charli, what's up? Good to see you after so long.
I know, I missed you.
I missed you too. Wow, I think I last saw you on 2019 in that conference, Epicurrence conference. Was that last time I saw you?
I think it would have been. I think with the only 2 times we've seen each other in person have been at Epicurrence events.
Yeah. And those were so long ago.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah. Long ago, but they were great. I think they definitely left a good lasting memory.
Oh man, I met so many people who kind of became friends.
Yeah.
I mean, we were kind of online friends before, but it's so good to hang out in person too. So how have you been? It happened a lot. I've been following on Twitter and on YouTube. Seen your progress. Amazing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean,
how's it been for you?
Life's been busy. All of my own making, I guess, in a way. I keep myself busy. Obviously, during COVID, the travel slowed down or stopped completely for me for a couple of years, but travel has started back up again for me this year. So I've been on a few trips, and as well as that,
you just came back from
from the Arctic Circle.
Arctics.
Yep. Just casually.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Casually saw some polar bears.
Yep. And some beluga whales. It was amazing. I live for that sort of experience. Is really important for me to have in my life. So I love it. But yeah, also work's been busy. I got a promotion in 2020 to creative director at ConvertKit. So I became a manager, and I'm way more responsibilities and lots of learning and growth to happen there. And then in my own business, I don't know, trying to grow my YouTube channel, which is definitely in a plateau at the moment, adding more products to my business, starting to write a book. Yeah, like I said, busy of my own making, but I'm enjoying it for the most part.
That's crazy. I think most people I talk to, they kind of have this mindset of either I'm kind of doing my own thing. I'm a freelancing. I have side projects, side hustles, or I want the stability of job and grow as a manager. But you seem to kind of do them both all in.
Yeah, I do. And I don't know if it's the right choice, to be honest, Ryan. I feel pretty burnt out at the moment. It started last year, and I'm still feeling it this year, and I'm trying to figure out ways to recover from that without stopping everything, because I'm I genuinely enjoy all the things that I'm doing. Genuinely enjoy my job. Feel very lucky to have that in tech, especially at the moment with how wild tech has been over the past year. So many layoffs and instability. To be working at a company that's profitable and bootstrapped, and I don't feel like I have that concern has been nice, and I truly enjoy the work. Love having my own business.
What do you feel leads to that? I've also had that multiple times during the last few years. But what do you think causes that for you? I mean, is it self-induced stress? It's not stress from losing your job. Obviously, you just mentioned that. So what do you think leads to that?
I think that it's kind of a lack of alignment around how you're spending your time, whether that's too much of something, not enough of something else. I think that's what it leads to. And for me, I think that settling into this role as creative director has been a huge learning curve. And there was a couple of years where, quite honestly, it wasn't the job that I wanted. It wasn't I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to be doing. I couldn't see the path forward in my career in this role that led to where I wanted to go. Luckily,
where is it that you wanted to go?
I really am obsessed with design, brand, creative. That's what I want to focus on. And there was a time when I first moved into this role where it sort of seemed like what the company needed from me was to be the person who's doing brand marketing, who's driving reach and driving awareness and being the one to come up with the strategies to get in front of the most amount of people. Whereas I think my strengths lie in, once we reach someone, how do we make sure that they feel affinity, that the thing they're seeing from our brand has an impact on them? And how do we make sure that every touch point they have with us is consistent? That's what lights me up, and that's what's more exciting to me. So luckily now, through some good conversations with managers and folks, execs at ConvertKit, I feel like I've managed to correct that. I'm on the path that I want to be on now with this role, and it's really exciting what I see ahead of the work to come. But I still have had that 2 years where it wasn't right.
So it was kind of the type of work that you were doing, not starting to manage people versus doing design work, or
there was a bit of that to start with. Honestly, that was a shift too. I felt so much, maybe probably too much, to be honest, of my identity is tied up with being a designer and like having good design skills. And when it became necessary for me to like not only stop working hands-on on projects so much, but also be spending my time on like marketing strategy and things like that, that's where it was like completely out of alignment for me. Whereas now I'm definitely still less hands-on with design projects. I dabble here and there because we're a very small team and everyone's got to get scrappy. But when I'm doing the strategic work, it's like creative strategy, brand strategy, which is more what I'm interested in doing. I'm missing the hands-on moving the pixels around a bit less. And I feel like I'm getting enough of it in the small things I do and also in like working on things for my own business as well. Like I designed a sales page the other day for a product that I was launching, and that's always fun.
Nice. I also had that in a way transition when we last met. I think, I was fully on my own. And since then I've tried multiple variations. Now it's a team. It's kind of like also a distributed global remote team. And I have found multiple times that for me, management, I mean, it's not the thing that I'm inclined to do. I'm not a good listener. I'm impatient. All of the things that I guess that a good manager needs. I'm not a good coach, I think. I'm a good educator when it comes to, teaching somebody on video, but when it's very different when it's like somebody that on your team. So I was trying to run away from that for a little bit because I also felt like out of alignment. But then I also discovered that we are small enough, too small for me to, have a manager managing everybody. I can't do that at my scale. So that didn't work as well. And now I'm kind of like learning to live with that, but also recognizing kind of like my strengths and weaknesses. I don't think I will ever be a good manager. Yeah.
I think you should give yourself some more credit in there. You're probably better than you think. Otherwise you wouldn't still have a team. But how have you gotten around that? Like how have you found what to lean into of your skills that like does work for management?
I think in the end, everybody who is building a company and a team is building it around how they like to enjoy and work, right? So for me, I like to be left alone most of the time, right? Because I like to be in this maker mood where I've got like a long stretch of time to work and focus on one thing instead of like meetings all day long. And for me, working remotely and work so I can be in a room just by myself, nobody can come in my room. Like mostly async work where we, have project management tools and we send looms to each other. And it's not just like consistently conversations. We don't have like Slack or something like that. We have like small Google chat, but it's not like crazy part of the job. So I think I'm building the system so that the company can operate that way just because that's what's comfortable to me, and I find the people who are comfortable in that environment. It's definitely, so last year, for example, when I had this period, I was by the way, super inspired by what Nathan has done in ConvertKit. And it was kind of like my holy grail for a couple of years where I thought, I want to build a company just like Nathan, until I realized, oh my God, I'm actually not a tech company. I'm not a software company. It's different. Like the margins are different. Scale is different. Like everything is different. It's nice, but I can't do that. So it was also kind of like a learning curve. But on the way there, when I tried to hire, as I've mentioned, a manager, and I had kind of like a team here in Israel in the office with me, which I thought, hey, if you want to build a good company, that's what you do, right? And it was just not a good fit for me to sit with other people in the room. So I learned the hard way that and I guess there's no right and wrong. I guess again, I have the privilege because I'm building the company to build it in a way that works for me.
That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like I have been, obviously I'm not building the company in the way that works for me because Nathan.
But if you work there long enough, it's been working for you. Obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be there.
And I do get to have a lot of influence, which I really like. I'm definitely someone who I like to be able to have an opinion on something and have that be heard and listened to and have an impact in that way. And so I've been here for nearly 7 years now at ConvertKit, which is...
It's crazy.
Like, I think that's probably half my career by this point I've spent at ConvertKit. That is just wild. And yeah, you're right. I wouldn't still be here if that wasn't a good fit. But management for me has definitely been a case of first of all, when I started, I know the pain of having a bad manager. And I was like, I want to make sure I'm a good manager. And I was so nervous about doing everything right and about making sure my team were happy and that they liked me and that, all of that, using a lot of other people's advice to inform what I was doing there. Whereas now I'm nearly 3 years in and I feel like I'm bringing my own ideas into it more and just doing what I think is right and like what I think will work for me. And so I'm feeling a little bit more confident in that and like less worried about my team liking me. They do like me, but more about like, okay, how do we make sure we're like working effectively together and that the stuff we're working on is the right priorities and things like that is more where I'm placing my focus, which feels like a better fit.
Definitely needing to be liked is definitely has been a challenge for me. Because for me, it's like either you're a nice person or you're an asshole, and I don't want to be an asshole. So, and also quite like you're saying, you know, I had bosses, don't necessarily want to say bad bosses, but things that I said to myself, oh, I will never do that if I'm a manager. And that kind of informs what I'm doing, but it can also lead to, you know, the other. So I'll give you an example, right? I had a manager previously when I was working in an agency who liked to work very late and until the last moment and kind of like push it very hard. Then I burned out at that job. I was like, I don't want to work past midnight 4 times a week and work my weekends. I want to have a life. So I'm putting a border. I will never do. I thought that's bad management. I will never do that to my team. It should be noted though that that person runs a big successful company for over a decade. So whether I think it was working management or bad, it was working. Yeah. Right. So, but that kind of leads me to be very concerned, for example, that my team members do not work overtime or don't, you know, work through their weekends and stuff like that. So I've been very protective to the point where, you know, every time I'm seeing them sending emails for the weekends or doing stuff through the weekends, I will ask them, why did you work through the weekend? Like, don't do that. Like, I don't want you to burn out and stuff like that. But sometimes they would tell me, oh, I'd rather do it this way. It leads me. So I'm more flexible. I want to do it this way so I can take time off. I mean, I want to be free and flexible and do my own thing. And I find that my need to do things my way, you know, it's very difficult for me to release that.
Yeah. And so that's your team saying to you, this is fine for me though. So like, don't worry, Ran, we've got this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And also don't tell me what to do. Like, let me, I'm a grown adult. If I want to work through the weekend, I'll do it. And I'm like this protective, no, but you will burn out. You need your life. You need to spend time with your family. I'm like, don't tell me what to do. Or I feel like sometimes that kind of like becomes a challenge. I don't know. And maybe I don't know, with all the burnout.
A good example though in doing that and letting them know that they don't have to and that it is their choice, you know. That's something that I've always been really conscious of at ConvertKit too, is like the work-life balance. And we've got a lot of folks who have kids and, you know, families on the team, and so that is often modeled. We've been going through like a bit of a shift at the moment. We're like really stepping up to a new level with our execution and like becoming the next phase of a company. We're no longer the like small scrappy startup. We're like 70 something people now. So it's still small compared to a lot of tech companies, but like it feels big for us and we need to change some of the ways we're working. And as part of this shift, I've been really careful as a manager to make sure I'm modeling taking your vacation time, especially working with Americans who are like, no offense to Americans, but vacation time is not like, I don't know, super common there. Like if you get it, you're lucky, but they don't always take it. And I am someone who will use all of my vacation days every single year. And I would use more if I had them and still get my work done because I believe it's important to take time off. And so I've, you know, been going on a few trips this year. And someone on my team actually said the other day before I went on my trip to the Arctic, they were like, oh my gosh, you're going away again? And I was like, yeah, vacation time is there for a reason. When's your next trip coming up? Have you booked it yet?
Yeah, fortunately, I've been... so that's, by the way, I write a newsletter every week, and I think next week's topic is going to be like, the subject line is going to be, it's not a good year for a vacation. And the topic is going to be like, I take my vacations anyway. It doesn't matter if it's not a good year for a vacation. Doesn't matter if there's like all of the stress. No, I'm taking it. So that's one thing that I feel like is being modeled for everybody. Cause like, hey, I'm going away now. Now it's August and I've got kids, they're away. So I need to be away with them. Then we have like Jewish holidays. So yeah, I take a lot of vacation and then sprint in between. So that's kind of like my method.
Yeah, that is a good way of working. I quite like that too. Like working in fits and spurts. I think I'm not like a marathon runner when it comes to working. I need to like have a project that I can like get obsessed with and sink into and like go, and then have things wind down and we like cool down for a sec before we dive into the next one.
I don't think I've worked on a project that's over a quarter. So for me, like 90 days is the ideal kind of like, I can focus, I can run very fast, then I'll be tired. I'll take a week off and then come back, plan again, and do it all over again.
Nice. I think that's where some of my like burnout that I've been feeling recently has come from as well, is that there's just so much going on at work that I can't really control, but then also I add on so much to myself in my own business. But that's important to me. Like, I never want to not work on my own business because I'm spending like so much more time or more energy in my quote unquote day job. So yeah, there's just been.
Is it important to you because you just enjoy doing it, or because you think conceptually that it's important for your personal brand or for, you know, future protection? Or like, is there like a concrete thinking about it, or it's just an intuitive thing that you want to do?
That's a really good question. And I think it's a mix of all of the above, perhaps. Like, there's definitely an aspect where I truly just enjoy creating and I have way more ideas than I have time. Like, when I meet people who are like, oh, I'd love to have a side project, but I don't know what to work on, I'm like, cannot relate. Not me. Have a million ideas that I have to say no to myself about all the time. I just, enjoy making things. And like that concept of having an idea of something that doesn't yet exist and you are the one who brings it to life. That's fun. But then there's also the fact that I've been making YouTube videos now for almost 10 years of building an audience in this way. There is the very real fear that if you stop, you will no longer be relevant, you will lose your audience, and it'll be hard to come back from that. And like all of the work that you put in will like fade away, lead to nothing. And so I do feel that pressure to make sure that I'm, continuing to put stuff out there, continuing to grow the audience, or at least maintain the audience at a minimum. And then there's also like I find a lot of fulfillment in creating things. So like tying up my personal worth in that, like I said about being a designer, and this may or may not be healthy, but it's like that I like setting challenges for myself and then seeing myself fulfill them and like learning what I need to make it happen. That's like what I need to feel generally fulfilled in life as well.
Yeah, I can.
It's a therapy
totally
session, Ran. Yeah.
For both of us, I hope. I want to say about what you've said. Like it's kind of like, I don't know if FOMO, but fear of, or kind of like sunk cost something, like, I've invested so much, I can't stop doing it right now. It's weird. I haven't thought about my YouTube in that sense, but I can tell you that, for example, for Instagram, so I was doing Instagram for a few years and I've had like very engaged audience over there. It was kind of like the super fans from YouTube came to Instagram and there was much higher engagement there because there were DMs and stories and blah, blah, blah. And that was really, really strong. And then I kind of like burned out on creating the content for it. And then we had somebody on my team who was creating the content for it. And I kind of like stepped back or was only doing DMs and stuff like that. And then that person burned out and left. And, there wasn't anybody good enough to replace him. Initially, I had this like, oh my God, there's like, I don't know, 150,000 followers there and like high engagement. And you could see the engagement dropping. And it was kind of like, oh my God, I'm about to lose all of that. And so for like 2 weeks, I was like, okay, pumping out on top of, again, everything else that I'm doing at the moment and the other priorities. And at some point I just said, you know what? I can't do it. And I kind of let it die. I think now my Instagram is kind of dead. There's like Flux account that sometimes uploads shorts, which we do now for YouTube, and they're tagging me. So it's kind of like, but it's honestly dead. So I've kind of lost all of that hard work. And we can talk about, like, I think Instagram might be a dead platform, but that's another discussion. But I recognize that I'm about to lose this, but I was okay with it, because I had other priorities. Yeah.
I think my problem is that I don't have, like, YouTube is my biggest platform. And when I say, working on stuff for my own business, I'm meaning not just YouTube, but also a newsletter and, appearing somewhat active on social media. I've never been taken Instagram seriously, or Twitter really. So I don't know if I really count them as work. I sort of post when I feel like it. But, I do want this business to be something and to have the option, I guess, to open up for whatever ideas I have in the future. Like the book that I'm writing at the moment. I'm writing a book about marketing design, and I want to make sure that when I eventually finish it, which will take me a while, I have an audience to launch it to who is going to be interested in reading it. because it would kind of be heartbreaking to spend all that time on something and then launch to crickets. I've done that before. Obviously, we all did when we were starting out, right? And no one was following us when we first got started. But that was so long ago for me that I'm like used to seeing the bigger numbers now. And I don't want to upload a video and have just 10 people watch it. And I don't want to like send a newsletter and only have 2 people read it, or launch a book and only have 3 people buy it. Like, I want to be more successful than that. And I feel like I have the potential to be, and that I want to live up to that potential that I see in myself, if that makes sense and is not too like big-headed to say.
What I think I realized is that it's kind of like a tide, or there's like, sometimes you will have energy and you will create more stuff and there'll be more engagement and stuff like that. And then there'll be periods where either you're not creating or you're just not focused to create good stuff. And there'll be, so for example, my videos right now, I feel like I'm in a low period in terms of engagement and quality and whatnot. And I'm saying to myself, it doesn't matter. What really matters is that you keep on going, because I'm focused on something else right now. And once that thing is done, I'll bring back my focus on improving the quality and improving everything. And the only thing that matters is to stay in the game, really, like not to stop. And I've had that before. And I also took breaks, on YouTube when my kids were born, and for a while I took breaks and I came back. And I think the only thing that really matters is to stay in the game. Like, and that's true for business as well. Sometimes you make more money, sometimes you make less money. But as long as you're persisting.
How long were some of the breaks that you took? Like, what would be the longest amount of time that you intentionally like decided to take?
Like a couple of months, I think.
Okay.
Couple of months. Yeah. But that was during the period where my uploads were daily. So it was kind of like daily. Bye. I'll be gone. I was just like, I'm taking off. I'll see you back in a while and then come back. Now, since I've kind of like systemized it and there's like team in place and I'm not the only creator on our channel, now there hasn't been any break in like, I think like 2-3 years, but because there's other people as well. So I can personally take a break, but there's content, but it's no longer just like my personal thing. Right.
Yeah. And I'm still in the place where everything is just me. And I do have freelancers that I work with on editing sometimes. I would love to hire more of an intentional team around this, but I know that I couldn't put focus on managing anybody in my own business while I'm also managing as part of my day job. My approach right now to YouTube is to make videos that I feel like making. That's what I'm trying to.
This is what this podcast is about.
There we go.
So remember, you were talking about alignment, about alignment and burnout. So I had a burnout, I think around March, and I did a lot of thinking, and I was like, I hate doing content right now because I'm not doing the videos I want to do. I keep making the videos I know that are good. I know our audience want, possibly they're valuable to them, like technical stuff. I don't feel like doing it anymore. So you know what? What do I like to do? Talking to my friends. So I'm going to start a podcast and I don't care if these podcasts on YouTube, at least, they're not getting as many views as, the whatever Webflow tutorial, best websites, whatever. But I don't care. It's at least I'm going to enjoy doing it and I'll be able to stay in the game. Right. So I'd rather do something that's less effective or will get less views, but I'm still in the game, rather than saying, oh, I got to do what works, and then I hate doing it, and then I'm just going to quit. So that's kind of like why I'm doing this, because this is fun for me.
Yeah, I love that. So very early in my YouTube journey, I had someone from Google Australia reach out to me because I was living in New Zealand at the time, and they were like trying to build up the YouTube community in New Zealand and like give budding new YouTubers some advice. So I worked with this like YouTube channel advisor who took a look at my analytics and things, and I had like only I don't know, maybe 2,000 subscribers at the time, maybe less. And they were looking at my analytics and my like plans for what I wanted to make and what I wanted my channel to be. And they were like, I think that your audience is actually different than you realize, and that you should be making videos to speak to a younger audience. Like, you should be talking to high school kids who might want to get into design or be like DIYing stuff in their house. And I thought about that and I was like, okay, this very talented person who like knows how to be successful on YouTube is telling me that's what I should do. And I don't want to do it. Like, I want to speak to my peers, maybe the people who are a couple years behind me in their career. And that's the videos that I want to make. I don't want to have to like no offense to high school students, and dumb things down. You know, I want to talk about like, assume people have some basic understanding of being a design professional and go from there in what I talk about. And so I decided to ignore that advice and just go along with the thinking that if I'm making the kind of videos that I want to make, eventually the audience, the right audience who wants to see them, will find me and will find those videos. And that can take a long time. Like, you started this podcast for the love of doing it. I started my podcast, Inside Marketing Design, for a similar reason. I wanted to talk to my peers in different tech companies, and a podcast is a great excuse to like get all these smart, talented people on a call with you. I'm in the 4th season of it, and I feel like it's just starting to pick up traction and like interest, and the views are climbing. And I'm like, I knew it would like find its audience eventually. And I don't know, that's what keeps me going, I think, is making sure that I believe in what I'm making.
So I want to say a few things about that. So there's a book that I like. It's kind of like a business book, but it's called The Road Less Stupid. And there's one thing that I remember from, it's a book about how to make less business mistakes. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that I remember from this book is there a note there that says, do not pick a strategy that you will not follow through. And it ties back to what you have said, because there's a lot of smart people who can show you the way. If you do this, you're going to be very successful. You're going to grow your channel. You're going to make $1 million, whatnot. Here's the blueprint, but you're not going to execute on that blueprint because you don't want to do it. Now, sometimes you're tempted to say, "Ooh, that sounds good. I want to be successful. I'll do that." But your whole body will fight against it, and you won't be able to execute and maintain that course for a while. So you're going to fail. So it's best to pick a strategy that is aligned with who you are, and you'll be able to execute on. So that's kind of like how I see both, what you said with the strategy advice. By the way, with your podcast, I also thought about it when you were talking about the book, that a podcast like the one that you're doing is like a fantastic networking tool, right? Now, know all of these people in marketing design. When you're going to launch your course, all of your friends who are on your podcast would love to share. I mean, so there's like 2 types of building like an audience, right? The audience itself, like the views, the people on your channel, but also the networks that these people have, which can help you launch the book successfully. So
yeah, I hope so.
It's definitely going to not going to launch the crickets. I can tell you
hope
already.
not, Ran. Yeah.
But tell me about the book. Tell me about the book. What's in the book? Or what do you want to have in the book?
Okay. So I want the book to be something that changes people's perspective on what brand and marketing design is. Because I feel like when I talk to people who don't work in it, or even honestly, some people who do work on this side of the tech industry, they see this as the like, oh, this is the fluffy, pretty picture side of design. And it's the product designers who are doing the real serious work. We see that reflected in salaries, right? Like salaries for product designers are higher than salaries for brand and marketing designers. Even though we're using the same skill sets, we're just applying them in different ways to different parts of the business. And I'm very glad.
There's definitely bias, by the way.
Yep.
I know this from all of my friends and peers here in the tech industry.
And I don't know where it comes from, but I think that honestly, brand and marketing designers ourselves are part of the problem sometimes. And so that is what I want this book to solve, is like, I want it to teach people how to be impactful brand and marketing designers, how to understand the like business strategy and the marketing strategy that your work is going towards, so that you can like be approaching your work from that more strategic angle and not just thinking about visually how it looks. My like working title right now, I don't know if I'll stick with it, is More Than Making Things Pretty. Because that is like literally how I've been introduced in a previous role, was like someone said, this is Charli, she makes things pretty. And I was like,
I have to tell you about this.
Tell me.
It's so funny that you said this, because we have a course called Core Design Skills where we teach people the core design skills, which essentially is how to make things pretty. Because we have a lot of people in our courses who, they learn Webflow, they learn web design, and they can build a website, but they lack the visual skills. It ends up not looking that great. And so we created this course, which is aimed at like, what is the benefit? The benefit is you'll be able to make things pretty. And I was thinking about this course today because it's getting great reviews and people love it. And it's solving that. There's like crazy before and afters. And I was thinking today, we should call this course Make It Pretty or something like this. And we should sell it as, all the, patronizing designers will tell you, well, you're just making things pretty. But making things pretty is, number one, very hard. Number two, very important.
Yes.
And there is, Stegmeister, the designer, Stefan Stegmeister. I once saw him speak at a conference. I don't remember what was the title of the talk, but it was about why making things pretty is so important. And the way he started the call was he was showing buildings like airports or just like office buildings, and he was showing that all around the world they look the same. It's kind of like a rectangular with glass on it, and it's just like that's how it looked. And then he was showing like buildings from the past, like churches and stuff like that,
more
with
ornamental,
all more decoration, more kind of like culture, like they look different. There's so much story and value into that experience when something is so much more pretty. And then he also showed research about when things are prettier, how do people feel about, and it's, by the way, there's even, I think, research that say that people who look better are being perceived as being smarter or something like this. Like people are literally biased to like pretty stuff. And so to treat that as, and again, I fully respect that there's bias and discrimination, and I can understand where it's coming from. It's like, oh, I'm working on the actual product. You're just making a banner for Instagram. We can do without that, but we can do without me, or something like that. I can understand where it's coming from. But the importance of stuff looking good and, pleasurable to work with or to look at, or a brand to be perceived as trustworthy. Apple has proved that. I mean, everybody knows that. So yeah, I think it's so important.
Agreed. And I actually talk about this in the book as well. Like, well, hang on a second. Since when did making things pretty become a bad thing and like an insult?
Exactly.
That is a very valuable skill. And honestly, one where I feel like as brand and marketing designers, we can help out the product designers in this area. Because I think that I've personally seen a lot of UX, UI designers get so into the UX and like the wireframing and the user flows and the journeys, and they're doing great thinking about all of that. But then they like can't make it beautiful because they've like lost that side of their skill set. They've spent too long in the wireframing mode. I
think that it's just two different sides of the brain. Like product design or UX design is more left side, which is like logical words. It's like methodical. You can sync it out. The right side of the brain, which is visual, artistic, creative, nonverbal, that kind of thing, is the more visual. So I think that most people fall on either one of them. Not a lot of people can do both of them very well. It's very rare, I would say, for people to be very good visually and also very good at understanding, the flow and the business solution of how this works and how, how to solve the problem. Like problem solving and visuals is not always the same spot. And both can be strategic. It's got nothing to do with strategy or importance. Both are important, but it's just, and I think that the people who, if I try to kind of like think about the history, and I make this stuff up, right? So I don't know if this is true, but this is
fake history with Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah. Tech companies originally were built by engineers. They did not have designers, at least in the important seats earlier on. And all of these engineers are left brain, right? Because that's coding is problem solving, words, letters, not visual. So these were the type of left brain people who were building these companies. And that was the perception of, oh, you're doing something that we don't understand, we don't care about, and we don't see the value of. So it must be not as important. And that's like historically how the companies were built. It's like first there were product designers. And I think even to this day, a lot of tech companies would hire out agencies to do their branding and their stuff like that. They would not do that internally, but they will have product designers in-house.
Yep.
So I think that's maybe historically why this happened. And I think, yeah, it needs to change. And well done on making effort.
I think that to be impactful and like successful as a designer, even though like you said, I think we naturally lean one way or the other with the like more logical side or the more visual creative side, but you need to have both. Because if you're creating something beautiful that doesn't relate to a strategy or doesn't like connect to everything else, it's not serving the business. It's just like existing on its own as an art piece. And the same on the other side. Like if you're creating something that like, yeah, this is the right UX, the button's in the right place, but it's like not creating a lasting impression on someone and it's not standing out and like the user isn't forming a personal connection with it because it's lacking that personality in the visuals, then that's a problem too. And so we do kind of need to be able to do both. And it's my hope that this book can help the folks in working in brand and marketing design who like have been told that they are only in the like visual, creative, making things pretty side, show them how to bring in more of that logic, strategy, data, that side of things to make their work even better and to like inform the beautiful visuals that they're making.
Nice. I think this is important. Now we need to do it the other way around, which is to teach the other people or the technical people or the engineers about how to make things prettier or why it's so important to do that.
Sounds like your course is doing that though, the Make It Pretty course.
Yeah, it's, that's one more thing that I realized. I thought that I am creating, that my audience is designers, or at least, designers that maybe want to know how to code or be able to develop. So they're going to build with Webflow. But what actually happened is that a lot of developers or people who wanted to be able to visually develop arrived. And then, so my assumption is, how to design, let me teach you how to build. Because that was kind of like how I got to it. But turns out it happens a lot of the other way around. People come to it from a development standpoint, and then we try to push them more into the design things. Hey, let me teach you, how to make it look good and how to understand branding. Because you're building a website, but if, the brand assets that you're using are bad, you're not going to be able to save it. Even if you're amazing at Webflow, you can't save like this horrible logo and color palette. So that's how we kind of like always drag them backwards into, okay, so you can do Webflow, but can you design a website? Okay, you can design a website, but can you do the branding for them? Okay, you can do the branding, but can you think about the brand strategy? And what I have found also in our students is, I like to do it all. And I came up with this, like, I'm a full stack designer and you should all be full stack designers and learn all of this. But what I've seen is that some people just have natural, some people will do all of it. And some people will take all of our courses and figure out, you know what? I only want to do Webflow development, or I only want to do brand strategy, right? Some people just naturally have inclinations or where they can shine, where they can have an edge.
I think that's why I have always suited working at smaller companies, is because I'm more of a general design skill set than like I have one specific niche. I think that I do like web design is my strongest suit, and like that's where most of my focus on learning and development goes to. But I also know a lot about all these other things, and more importantly, how they work together to overall form a brand and an experience for someone. And so I love working at a smaller company where I get to work on all those things and I don't have to just pick one lane to stick to.
Me too. And by the way, my clients, specifically when I was freelancing, my clients were small startups where they don't have capacity to hire multiple people. And I had to do branding, I had to do web design, I had to do the product design, I had to do all of it. And obviously I'm not world-class at all of them, but not a lot of people can do all three of these things at a very good kind of like level. And I was, that was kind of like my unique sweet spot. But so let me tell you, now the company is growing. So what does that mean?
Well, for me,
you used to want to do all of these things, and now
I still get to do all these things. Like the team that I lead, the brand studio team at ConvertKit, is a multidisciplinary team. So on my team, there's 4 people at the moment. We have a designer, a developer, a writer, and a video producer. And so we're covering like a lot of different creative aspects that all, go together to form a brand. So I find that really fun to get to be involved and like direct all of this different stuff, even if I'm not the one hands-on making it all. Like at one point I was the person doing all that stuff for the company, and now I don't have to be anymore, but I can still be involved with it. And so that's still fun for me, for sure.
Before ConvertKit, were you freelancing or were you working somewhere else in QuickBooks or?
No, close. It was a competitor of QuickBooks. So
I remember somewhere in the invoicing space.
Xero is where I worked.
Exactly.
That was my first job in tech. But before ConvertKit, I was actually at a London-based startup called Edited, and they made like analytics software for the fashion industry. I left Xero because I was like, okay, tech is great, but designing for an audience of accountants is not like lighting me up inside. And so then I was like, oh, fashion, love fashion. Let me go and work in like this industry instead. And then I learned that like actually big fashion companies are just like large corporates, and they're not like, I don't know, a super creative audience to speak to. And so again, I was like finding that right fit. And I guess I've been at ConvertKit for nearly 7 years because the audience is creators. And so it was basically, I'm designing things that I myself would like. So it's very easy for me to get to know my target audience. It's myself and my peers. And so maybe that's like cheating in a way, but
that's fantastic.
I really enjoy
Actually,
it.
I was looking at the recent report that you were doing.
Oh yeah, State of the Creator Economy report.
Yeah. Number one thing I wanted to ask was, why isn't it not built on Webflow? But the second thing I wanted to ask was, I saw that blogging is still the top thing, which kind of like, baffled me for a second. I started in blogging, but I had the assumption that blogging is dead.
And blogging is very well alive. And so are like, I think that a lot of blogs build their audience on Instagram, on newsletters. And so maybe you don't see them as blogs, you see them as, an Instagram creator or a newsletter writer. But the blog is the ultimate thing that they themselves hold
text
as their
reading. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, main platform.
Because I still write weekly newsletter every week, which I highly enjoy. And is actually, when I look at it, because our list is pretty big right now, it's funny because I don't think about myself as a blogger or a writer or anything, but I think like about 40,000 people open and
That's
read
amazing.
the weekly newsletter every week. And if I look at the videos that I make on YouTube, it would something to be like 4,000 people watch the YouTube.
Yes, so actually similar for me, not 40,000 opening the newsletter. Mine's not quite there yet, but it's about like maybe 8,000 open and read the newsletter weekly compared to a couple of thousand views on a video. So it's like this. Yet when I have sponsors reach out to me and they're like wanting to sponsor a YouTube video, and I'm like, I don't want to take that on because like right now I'm in a place where I don't think I can provide enough value to a lot of sponsors based on the views that I get and the effort that I would have to spend to make it. Like I'll only accept sponsorships from companies that I already know and love using, because then it's very easy for me to make a video and it's like a natural fit for the audience. And so those I think are a good idea. But like lesser known brands or like ones that I'm like, I see how this invoicing platform will be a good fit, but I'm not going to go and make a video about it. You should sponsor my newsletter though, because you're going to reach thousands of designers who need an invoicing platform. And they're only interested in sponsoring YouTube videos or Instagram. And I'm like, you're missing out.
I have the same experience.
Yeah.
I was I kind of revamped my newsletter so that we can start taking on sponsors. Cause I've heard from other design writers that they're getting like nice sponsors. And I was like, okay, I want to do that as well. But I haven't been able to close sponsors. And it's crazy. Everybody, I'm getting like 3 requests a day for YouTube videos. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it, but do you want a newsletter? No.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I think brands will catch on at some point. We're working on something to do with that right now at ConvertKit. We've got this like sponsorship network where we have a team who's like connecting newsletter writers with sponsors and like managing all the contracts and deals and all of that. And I've had quite a few newsletter sponsorships through being a part of that, which is cool. So we're looking forward to expanding that out to more people.
Is it your service? Because I've seen another service that does that. I forgot the name. Is this ConvertKit service that you're talking about? Okay, cool.
Yep. So we have a team, right now it's called the Sponsorship Network, but I think we're changing that because we also have another thing called the Creator Network, and it's just getting confusing to have too many things called networks. But basically it's a team who like manages, like is reaching out to brands and then filling slots in newsletters. Yeah, it's great. They handle like all the admin stuff.
I'm highly considering moving us to ConvertKit. We're using something called Ontraport. I don't even know if you know that. But,
I know of it. I mean, only because I work in the space, probably.
Yeah. But maybe that's a technical discussion we should have. It's just
maybe the podcast listeners don't want to hear me give a ConvertKit spiel right now, but I can show you around my account on a later date if you want.
It's mostly just the overhead of doing a migration with.
We do it for free for you. Just saying.
I know. I've seen that, and that's kind of like how I try to sell it to my team. But
your
I guess there's a lot of automation that ties into it, and so why wasn't the page built on Webflow?
Okay, going back to that.
Asking
Okay.
non-sponsoredly.
Yeah. So we did actually build a previous version of our report on Webflow. So last year's one was on Webflow. And we did that because of time constraints. We didn't have the capacity for the one developer that we had
Is
on the
Webflow
team.
not the fastest way to do it?
Exactly. That's why we did Webflow for the last year's report, was because of the time constraints.
Oh, got it.
We couldn't build it on our main website. There was like other projects going on that our developer needed to focus on. And so
the main website is not on Webflow?
Main website is not on Webflow. The
Why?
main website, I think, is, and I think this is true for a lot of tech companies, is like way larger and more complex than it may appear when you just like look at the navigation. There's so many parts to it where it's like connecting to different things in the app. And I don't know, maybe this is just my Webflow ignorance, even though I am like quite a big Webflow fan, use it for all my own personal stuff. But I could not imagine us building our whole marketing site on Webflow and doing it effectively.
They should offer the migration service like you do.
I mean, I don't know. Like our website is basically like, we treat it as a product. It's its own like thing in GitHub, and we have versions and components and all of this. And I know I hit constraints myself in Webflow, which I find workarounds for because it's just my personal site. But when it's like a website that's driving in, you know, a good portion of the sales for our business, I want to make sure that we have more control than what Webflow gives. So nothing against Webflow. Huge fan.
No,
we use
I
it
have
for microsites, but yeah.
By the way, I have a friend in Monday, which I just saw before the show, that was on your podcast.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, she's wife of one of my best friends. Anyway, so she told me that she is currently managing the project of moving the Monday website to Webflow.
Ooh.
And building out all the components. And that's a crazy big website. And they're doing tons of...
I need to get her back on the podcast and do an episode about that. I want to hear more about that.
I don't know that they've completed it, but she's on it. Like, enterprise client and blah, blah, blah. But
nice.
Yeah.
Basically because I had someone, I went to Config recently, and there was someone there who was like trying to sell me hardcore on Webflow. And first of all, I was like, dude, I've been a Webflow user for like 8 years or however long. Like, trust me, I know about it. And the main thing that I said to him was like, we don't feel any pain points right now that Webflow can solve. And so why would we make a change if we're like, you know, there's no reason to.
I'll tell you one thing. We're kind of revamping our website right now, and one of the things that we're trying to solve with this new version is for our marketer to be able to build new pages. I don't know if you have that, but build new pages and customize everything without the need of a developer. So we're building a full-on library of components that he'll be able to, everything is either tied to the CMS or a component library that he can set up, and he can manage the website without a need of a developer, which is funny, right? Because Webflow is a no-code tool, but every time we have a new page that has, custom stuff in it, and we do need our Webflow person to look into that, or to translate the Figma into Webflow. So are you coming to Webflow conference in October in London?
I'm not. I've got other travel happening in October. That means I can't come. I picked Figma's conference as my main thing this year. But I was very excited to hear that Webflow is doing a conference in London. That's very cool.
Damn.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Are you going to be there?
Now. Yeah, I'm gonna do a workshop on this, on what I told you right now. I think on how we're doing the component library for the website. And
cool. Yeah. That definitely sounds valuable.
Actually build a website before the conference. But
so that you have the example to talk about. Yeah.
Exactly. I first promised them we'll do the case study, and now we're scrapping to make it happen. That's how I do things. Commit first and deliver. Worry about delivery.
Worry about it later.
Yeah.
I like it.
So you were talking about ramping up your execution. So what does that mean? You said we're now bigger.
We're bigger. We need better systems in place to allow us to work more effectively, like to collaborate more across teams, to make sure that we don't need to take forever to make a decision about something or find alignment just because we have more people. Like, it's easy to think, okay, we need to make a decision about X. I need to talk to this person, this person, this person, this person, because they're all important. They all have a stake in the game.
I would never survive in a big company.
Exactly. We're all finding this struggle of like, too many cooks in the kitchen in some projects. And I don't know, we just need everyone on the team to know what they're responsible for and to feel empowered to make decisions surrounding that. And so that's like, yeah, the phase we're in right now is moving ahead on things like that. And we've already hit a few bumps. Like my team was tasked with making a video about that sponsorship program that I was talking about, the sponsorship network. And so we were like, okay, let's do the thing, write a script, we're going to film it. And like, we just moved ahead. We were getting feedback along the way, but we just like kept going forward. And then we found out that a big thing changed about how the program is going to work. And so now all of that work we did, we have to start from scratch. And so we're like, okay, that was a learning that maybe we moved a little too quickly and we prioritized like moving fast over moving in the right direction. And so we're learning like, how do we do both well? And in this case, it might have looked like saying, okay, we will start this project, you know, when we have this, and this information, and we won't touch it until then. We'll put all our efforts into other things so that when that information comes through, we can just run and make this thing right. But instead, we like spent a lot of time doing the first version of that thing. I don't know, that's just one example, but it's, it's the growing pains, right?
Yeah.
Of a company going from being a group of people who all know each other very well and could all like fit in one room together to being more of like a business with different management layers and different teams responsible for different stuff, newer people coming in. Yeah, it's been a lot of change happen over the past nearly 7 years that I've been there.
What do you think about, you mentioned briefly before about, you know, it's a weird time and there's layoffs in tech and stuff like that for new designers, or are you hiring? Or are you like, what do you think are the chances of somebody starting out now?
I think about this a lot, actually, especially because I offer mentoring sessions where I like do portfolio reviews or, you know, help people prepare for interviews and things like that. And the stakes are just really high, I think, for anyone interviewing for jobs at the moment. We don't hire for design, especially a lot at ConvertKit. We just don't generally open up roles very often because we're trying to do the most we can with a smaller team. We're not trying to grow to be like 1,000 people or anything like that. But anytime we do open a role, it gets like hundreds, sometimes even close to 1,000 applicants. And I think that any designer out there needs to realize that whenever they're applying for a role, they are one of like multiple hundreds in that hiring manager's inbox.
I cannot overstate this.
Yeah, you've got to stand out. And I've seen a lot of people online talk about, oh, we shouldn't ask people to write a cover letter, like the portfolio should speak for itself. You shouldn't even need a portfolio. The resume should speak for itself. And I'm like, yeah, maybe in an ideal world. But the reality is the hiring manager has like 30 seconds maybe. They're checking to see that your experience lines up with what they're looking for in the role. They're looking at your portfolio to see, does this person have like the right standard of work that we're looking for? And then they're moving you forward to the like, look at closer, read case studies in detail pile, or they're declining you. And like, I'm sorry if that sucks to hear, but that's just how it honestly works. And maybe not a lot of people are saying that, but it's true.
I'll tell you, because I just hired a designer for our team, and I've put out, you know, an email to our list, which is how I hire mainly. And the next day I had 550 portfolios in my spreadsheet.
You can't even literally spend a minute on each portfolio, because think of how much time you would be spending, like on
10
all
seconds,
of that.
about 10 seconds.
Exactly.
10 seconds is what I had. And a 10-second so if your link doesn't load, if you're sending me to a password protected PDF or whatever, if I need to download now something, it's all of these things. It's just like, sorry, I don't have time for this because I have to work through. And then it's just like, tuck. It's like judging very, very quickly. And then if it doesn't pass the immediate, looks good, looks professional, because, you know, these, at least in visual design, you can immediately tell if it's not in the standard. And then if it is, you might want to dive deeper, but most of them, you're like, click no, click no, click no. And it's people putting in the effort and it feels terrible, but it's just like, it's a 3 to 10 seconds test to see. I'm not even reading. I'm just like, scroll. That's
the harsh reality, right? That's the market we're in, is that there's so many more designers than there are jobs. But because what we're saying, like a lot of the ones you look at, you do discard. There is absolutely jobs out there for designers who are skilled and who like want to show that to a hiring manager and show that this is the right role for them, there's definitely still opportunity out there, because yes, that we're getting a lot of applications for every role that we put up, but there's also so many businesses looking for good designers, right? Like both of those, the sides of those things is true.
And I want to say another thing and tie it into asking you about the workshop that you're about to do, because there's a way to hack through the top of this thing, which is if you're getting to me not through the 500
Networking.
application,
yeah,
not really networking as much as I randomly saw a tweet from a person that's saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. But the image in that tweet looked so good that led me to clicking the link and checking that out and spending more time there before I'm even getting to my 500 list that's waiting for me. So he hacked kind of like his way inside. And it's just kind of like,
is this the designer you hired did that?
No. He got second. So out of the 500, 2 of them were doing kind of like a paid assignment in which we pay them and we ask them to do something. So out of the 500, 2 got to the assignment. He was one of the 2. So
nice.
He did.
Yeah,
and I have to say, he made it all. And if I didn't have the other guy, I would also actually hire him because he did well. The other one did exceptionally well. So you're doing this workshop. I'd help you promote it, but I think, by the way, the time that
I think it'll be over
by the time
airs,
the episode is out.
But
exactly.
Okay, no,
but tell me about it.
I'm thinking of making the replay available. It's like almost like a one lesson course, like not a full course with like a bunch of videos you watch through. Just like
we have that, by the way.
Nice. And does it work for you?
We've done it's not one of our best sellers, but we have like a live workshop we did on e-commerce, and it's on our website, and people buy the replay.
Yeah, I figure why not make it available to folks?
Yeah, why not?
So the workshop is called Crafting a Personal Brand, and it's specifically for designers, but I think it'd be applicable for any creative professional. Like, folks are smart, they can make the leap. When I'm giving an example of a designer, you can think of a writer or a marketer or whatever else you want to put in that place. I personally have found in my career that the fact that I've built up my personal brand, which is, when I say that, I essentially mean my reputation as a designer. I don't just mean the fact that purple is my brand color. It's helped me so much. It's gotten me promotions, it's gotten me jobs, freelancing opportunities, meeting people like you and like all the other folks that I know in the design community, who I know if I like need some advice or I'm struggling with something, people are going to be there for me. Like, you're going to be there for me to help me out. And we wouldn't know each other if I hadn't been doing things to intentionally build my personal brand and to build my reputation as part of the design community. And that's what I want to help people do. So it's not necessarily about becoming famous as a designer and building a large audience, because I think you can build a lot of influence and your reputation on like a smaller scale within your company even, or within your local like design community. But that's what it's about, is helping people figure out what they want to be known for, evaluate what are they doing right now and what reputation might they have or perception might they be building, and then come up with a plan for how to get to the thing you want to be known for.
Love it. And I do want to say that, knowing that I've made so many friends and built a lot of goodwill with people on the internet is really kind of like one thing that allows me to sleep at night. If my company crashes and if everything else burns, I know I'm going to be okay, because I have so many people who have goodwill and would want to help, that I'm sure I'll be able to land on my feet. But Absolutely. I wanted to ask, do you feel like, for me personally, I don't think that it was intentional, like building my brand. It started off, again, writing a blog in Hebrew right after design school, just because I wanted to share my thoughts. And it kind of like happened because I enjoyed creating content, but I've never thought about it as in, okay, now I'm setting on this journey of building my personal brand because it's valuable and it's going to help me out in the future. It was kind of just like it happened, So my question to you is, and I don't know, I'd love to hear if on your end it was intentional or you just happened to just happen, but do you think you can be intentional about this, or it just happens?
I think that what happened for you and also what happened for me is like, it came naturally that you wanted to put yourself out there. And so you just started doing things. And because it is a personal brand, it is about you as a person, right? And so that works. That makes sense. But I definitely hit points where I found myself with, like I was saying before, too many ideas, and I'm like, oh, what should I go after? And that's when this idea of coming back to, okay, well, what do I want to be known for actually? And making decisions that would lead to that really helped me like cut down on the noise and to make the right decisions. I found there was honestly a point with my YouTube especially where I was making videos about a lot of different things I was interested in. Design, but also DIY and home decor and fashion and like travel vlogs, where I'm like vlogging my trips I was taking with my friends. And I would find myself being at a creator event, and someone would introduce me and they'd be like, oh, this is Charli and she makes fashion videos. Or this is Charli and she makes great DIY videos. And I was like, okay, appreciate the compliment, but I'm a designer. Like, I want people to come to me for design stuff, not for all that other things. And so I knew I had to make a change and like be more intentional about it. And now these days, I'm like trying to be very intentionally on the brand and marketing design side of design. Like, don't come to me for product design. Product designers, you're welcome to watch and learn more about my side of the tech industry, but I'm not making product design videos. I want to intentionally be known as the brand and marketing design person and like the person to come to for advice and expertise on that. I hope it will lead to like companies paying me for consulting in that area in the future and stuff like that. And so it's kind of in a mix.
And by the way, that's super smart, because that's an open niche.
Yep.
Look, I don't know if you were thinking about this, but I don't know a lot of people who are famous in the marketing design space or famous for that. I know tons of product designers, I know brand designers, but I don't know about marketing designers. So that's
but even within product design, there's like corners of the niche that people are building. Like Fem, who we both know, is building this corner where she's known as like the strategic product design person. You're not going to her for like the nuances of UI design and like what pixel radius should your corners be and to make things beautiful and
5,
stuff like
obviously.
that. Yeah. Oh, controversial. You're going to have a product strategy, and you're going to someone like MDS for Shift Nudge for the more visual side of product design. And so, there's...
He told me it's 5, by the way.
Oh, he told you it was 5. Okay, it came from the source.
I'm kidding.
Matt's listening to this like, what? I would never.
The radius should be in REMs or whatever.
Oh, good point. Let's not even get into that. But I don't know, to go back to answer your original question, yes, it can happen naturally, but sometimes going through a process of like figuring it out and being more intentional about it can help you make decisions and maybe get you where you want to be going faster. And so that's what I hope that this workshop will do for folks.
Very cool. Do you think you have to be extrovert or content creator or that kind of stuff to build a personal brand?
Do you think all content creators are extroverts?
I don't know the extra. You're not?
No, I'm not. Are you?
Extrovert
From what you were saying about being in your office
extrovert
alone.
is exactly. Or extrovert is the wrong word.
You have to be confident putting yourself out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be confident and willing to do that. But like I said, like you can do this on different levels, and that just changes the like sphere of your influence, right? Like if you're just looking to have more influence and build a better reputation within your company where you are, like that might mean speaking up in meetings more, which also requires confidence, or like, going after ideas and advocating for things. But you can still build a reputation in that way too. You don't have to suddenly become an Instagrammer or have a large Twitter following to make it happen.
X-following.
Oh, don't get me started on that. Yeah. It will be Twitter for me. I'm going to be one of those people that just keeps holding on to it.
So if I want to say, for example, like I can say, you have X followers on YouTube and I have Y followers on YouTube, and you have X followers, X followers, and then you have XXX followers. Anyway.
Where are you going with this, Rand? I'm confused.
All the memes are out there.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Charli. It was awesome to chat and catch up. We should do this more often.
We should.
We do need to.
I agree. Yep. It was, we, for anyone listening, Rand and I were guest judges on a Webflow speed build challenge. And like, we joined the call to do our mic test and check. And we were like, oh my God, you're here too. And we had this like whole chat in the Zoom DMs. It was great.
That's how this episode came to be.
That's how this episode came to be. It was organized on that mic check call.
Yeah, fantastic. We didn't even get to speak about Spain, but hopefully I'll get to travel in Spain, and then maybe we can hang
Oh, I
out.
hope so.
We'll
That
try
would
to
be great.
make that happen.
I'd
as
love
well.
to show you around Valencia.
Send me the link to the workshop so that I can put it in the description.
Okay.
And if there's any other links or where you want people to reach out to you, send that over as well.
Deal.
And
It'll all be on charlieandrue.com. I'll just say it now.
fantastic. Amazing.